right, we can go on the record. Good morning, everyone. I think we all know why we're here. We're here for case number 9726, which is Chaberton Solar Sugarloaf's CPC and application to construct a 4-megawatt solar photovoltaic generating facility in Montgomery County, Maryland. We can start with appearances from the company.
Good morning, Your Honor. Andy Flavin with the law firm Troutman Pepper on behalf of the applicant, Chaberton Solar Sugarloaf 1, LLC.
Good morning. And PPRP?
Good morning, Your Honor. Assistant Attorney General Steve Tolson appearing on behalf of the Power Plant Research Program.
Good morning. Counsel for Montgomery County?
Good morning. Lisa Brennan, Assistant County Attorney, Montgomery County.
Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission?
Good morning, Your Honor. Matthew Mills on behalf of Park and Planning.
Good morning. Montgomery Countryside Alliance, Sugarloaf Citizens Association, Montgomery County Farm Bureau, Montgomery Agricultural Producers.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'm William Sheehan for the interveners.
Good morning, Mr. Sheehan, and the commission staff.
Good morning, Your Honor. Harrison Scher on behalf of the Commission's technical staff.
Good morning. Do we have any preliminary matters we need to handle, or would you like to just call your first witness?
Your Honor, just wanted to check and see if you wanted to have us identify the exhibits not associated with the testimony first, or if you'd rather just start in with the witnesses.
You're welcome to do that if you'd like.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. And I believe we had previously marked as applicant exhibit 1 the certificates of publication for the pre-hearing conference.
That's correct.
Thank you, Your Honor. Starting now then with applicant exhibit number 2, may we please have marked as applicant exhibit number 2 the cover letter and certificate of service for the application, which was filed under mail log number 307988 on March 4th, 2024.
Applicant exhibit 2 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant exhibit 3 the petition application appendix and ERD narrative, which was filed also under mail log number 307988 on March 4th, 2024.
Applicant exhibit 3 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant exhibit 4 ERD appendices A through F, also filed under mail log number 307988 on March 4th, 2024.
Applicant exhibit 4 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant exhibit 5 ERD appendices G through K, which was filed also under mail log number 307988 on March 4th, 2024.
Applicant 5 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant exhibit 6 ERD appendix L part 1, which was filed under mail log number 307988 on March 4th, 2024.
Applicant 6 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant exhibit 7 ERD appendix L part 2, also filed under mail log number 307988 on March 4th, 2024.
Applicant 7 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant exhibit 8 updated ERD appendices M through R, filed under mail log number 309701 on May 16th, 2024.
Applicant 8 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant exhibit 9 updated ERD appendix S in public version, which was filed under mail log number 309702 on May 16th, 2024.
With the confidential version as 9C.
Yes, please, Your Honor. Thank you.
9 and 9C are marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant exhibit 10 the revised verification and updated certificate of service filed under mail log number 308000, and that was filed on March 5th, 2024.
10 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant exhibit 11 comments from the Maryland Historical Trust filed under mail log number 308341 on March 20th, 2024.
11 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant exhibit 12 the revised petition filed under mail log number 308397 on March 25th, 2024.
Applicant Exhibit 12 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant Exhibit 13 the responses to PPRP Data Request 1 filed under mail log number 308780 on April 4th, 2024.
Applicant 13 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant Exhibit 14 the Certificate of Compliance filed under mail log number 309924 on May 29th, 2024.
Applicant 14 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant Exhibit 15 the certificates of publication for the virtual public hearing filed under mail log number 310734 on July 9th, 2024.
Applicant 15 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant Exhibit 16 the supplemental responses to the PPRP's Data Request 1 filed under mail log number 311186 on July 26, 2024.
Applicant 16 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant Exhibit 17 the revised site plan filed under mail log number 314835 on January 13th, 2025.
17 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant Exhibit 18 the updated decommissioning plan filed under mail log number 314937 on January 15th, 2025.
Applicant 18 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant Exhibit 19 the certificates of publication for the second public comment hearing filed under mail log number 315379 on February 3rd, 2025.
19 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May we please have marked as applicant Exhibit 20 the sign affidavit filed under mail log number 315490 on February 6, 2025.
Applicant 20 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. In the last exhibit before the testimony, may we please have marked as applicant Exhibit 21 the settlement status update filed under mail log number 315543 on February 7th, 2025.
Applicant, is that 22?
21, Your Honor.
21 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
May we call the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this point, the applicant call is Ryan Boswell.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm on the penalty of perjury that the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your first and last name.
My name is Ryan Boswell, RyanBoswell.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Boswell. Could you please give us your name, position of employment, and business address?
Yeah, again, my name is Ryan Boswell. I am here on behalf of Chaberton Energy Holdings and Chaberton Solar Sugarloaf 1 LLC. Our business address is 1700 Rockville Pike, Rockville, Maryland, Suite 305, Rockville, Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Boswell. And what is your position with the applicant?
Vice President of Development.
Thank you, Mr. Boswell. Mr. Boswell, did you cause to be filed in this proceeding a document entitled The Direct Testimony of Ryan Boswell, consisting of 5 typed pages of questions and answers and 2 appendices, which was filed in public version only in this proceeding on June 19th, 2024, under mail log number 310345?
I did.
If I asked, or was that prepared under by you or under your supervision?
Yes, it was.
If I asked you the questions appearing in that document here today, would you provide the same or substantially similar answers?
Yes,
Do you wish to sponsor that document as your direct testimony in this proceeding?
I do.
Your Honor, I'd ask that Mr. Boswell's direct testimony in public version only be marked for identification as applicant Exhibit 22, please.
Applicant 22 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, Mr. Boswell is available for questions.
PPRP,
No questions.
Montgomery County. CPP. How would you like for me to? What's the
Well,
easiest way?
the actual name's a mouthful, as Your Honor. So to get park and planning is usually what works.
Let's do that. Park and planning.
And thank you, Your Honor. I have no questions.
Montgomery Countryside Alliance at all?
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have questions.
Sure.
Mr. Boswell, my name is William Sheehan. I represent the interveners in this case. I've got some questions I'd like to ask.
Good morning.
Good morning. What is a reasonable date for the Sugarloaf project to begin operating if it is approved?
I would expect operations to commence sometime around mid-year of 2026.
How many projects has Chaperton completed in the United States?
In terms of operating projects, we have fewer than 10 in the state of Maryland, and we don't have any other operating project. Well, I'm sorry, we have 2 operating projects in Delaware. Beyond those 2 states, we don't have any operating projects.
I thought your website mentioned 130 projects.
We have at least 130 projects in development, but as far as operating projects, that's fewer than 10 in Maryland and 2 in Delaware.
And the rest are in the pipeline.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you have any projects already completed or in the pipeline outside the United States?
We do not. We do have a joint venture with a partner in Italy, but none of those projects are currently operating.
Okay. How many of these 130 projects, either finished or in the pipeline, violate local zoning laws?
Your Honor, respectfully, I'm going to object. This is not in his direct testimony at all anywhere.
I'm going to allow it.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
None that I'm aware of. In fact, all of them have been compliant with local zoning.
Are you aware that your website says that you're the fastest growing community solar company in the U.S.?
I am aware.
So you've been able to become the fastest growing community solar company in the United States with over 130 projects in place without violating local zoning laws. Is that accurate?
As I stated previously, we have not violated any local zoning laws in our projects.
Okay. So you don't need to violate local zoning laws to be a successful solar energy developer?
We have had success to date without violating local zoning laws.
Okay. In your testimony in this proceeding on June 19, you said, quote, Chaperton Energy deeply values the communities it serves.
That's correct.
Montgomery County zoning laws are put in place by the county's elected representatives, are they not?
That's correct.
Okay. So those zoning laws represent the wishes of the Montgomery County community, do they not?
They certainly reflect the outcome of a vote by the commission and the council.
By the community's elected representatives.
That's correct.
And Chaperton was aware of these zoning laws when it submitted its Sugarloaf application to the Public Service Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you know that the Agricultural Reserve was established in 1980? Are you aware of that?
I am aware of that, yes.
And you knew when the application was submitted that the reserve is celebrated across the nation as a model for the preservation of open space. You knew that?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Do you know that there have been continued efforts over the years since its creation to defeat its purpose by using farmland for commercial interests?
I'm not aware of other commercial interests in the Ag Reserve, but I am aware that the zoning in the Agricultural Reserve does allow for community solar.
You submitted rebuttal testimony on February 21 in this case?
That sounds accurate.
Yeah, and attachment 3 to that testimony consisted of the minutes of the January 9, 2025 meeting of the Montgomery County Planning Board on Chaperton's Sugarloaf project?
That's correct.
Your Honor, if I may, Would this question be more appropriate from when Mr. Boswell comes back up on rebuttal?
I think we're gonna do all of Mr. Boswell's testimony now, so if
Okay.
you want to just mark his supplemental direct testimony and his rebuttal.
Y-
The
y-
supplemental direct testimony, mail log number 311975, dated August 28th, 2024, would be marked as 26, and the rebuttal testimony filed on February 21st, 2025, would be marked as 27.
That would be fine, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead, counsel.
So, Mr. Boswell, I was referring to attachment 3 to your rebuttal testimony, which was the minutes of the Montgomery County Planning Board on Chaperton Sugarloaf project. And did you see that on page 15 of that report, it said, quote, over 60 pieces of correspondence in opposition to the project were received since the previous hearing? Were you aware of that?
I am aware of that.
Okay. You were aware there was a public hearing in this case on February 4 at the fire department in Bellsville, Maryland, correct?
That's correct.
Were you there?
I was not in attendance in the February meeting, no.
Okay, but other people from Chaperton were there?
That's correct.
Did they tell you that the community opposition to this project was overwhelming?
They did not describe it as overwhelming, no.
How did they describe it?
They described that some of the individuals in attendance were opposed to the project, but they also relayed that some individuals in attendance also supported the project.
Would it surprise you to learn that more than 90% of the people who spoke opposed it?
I can't speculate on the number of participants that opposed it in proportion to the total, but generally people who oppose projects are more motivated to attend those hearings.
Right. Do you know that the power plant research project held a public hearing on July 10 in which Chaperton and state agencies and several members of the community attended?
Yes.
Your Honor, if I can correct the record, PPRP doesn't hold public hearings, if that was what I heard.
That's true. Do you want to rephrase, counsel?
Okay, there was a public hearing on Chaperton's application on July 10, 2024,
Correct.
and 9 community members provided verbal and written comments opposing the projects.
That sounds accurate.
And the reasons for proposing, according to the report of that hearing, were, quote, placement of solar facilities on agricultural land, specifically within the AR zone, and the violation of Montgomery County zoning ordinances, and a potential for increased cost of leasing agricultural land.
Those concerns sound familiar, yes.
And Mr. Boswell, you know that my clients, the Montgomery Countryside Alliance, the Sugarloaf Citizens Association, the Montgomery County Farm Bureau, and the Montgomery Agricultural Producers, all of whom represent community interests, are opposed to the project. You know that.
Yes, I've read their testimony.
So, Mr. Boswell, in light of the creation of the agricultural reserve to preserve farmland, and Chaperton's ability to become...
I think that might be me. Go ahead.
I'm going to start again, Mr. Boswell. In light of the creation of the reserve to preserve farmland and Chaperton's ability to become the fastest growing company of its kind in the United States without violating local community interests, and the overwhelming community opposition to the proposed project, and your testimony that Chaperton deeply believes the community it serves, why is Chaperton determined to override the community's interests in this case and basically shove this project down their throat?
Well, sir, we don't view it as overriding the community's interests. We think that the benefits of this project outweigh any downsides to the project, and we also don't characterize it as shoving the project down anyone's throats. We're
No, of course
complying
not.
both with state process and, to the greatest extent possible, the local zoning requirements.
So you say you think it's in the community's best interest, even though countless members of the community have said opposite.
We do believe that the benefits outweigh the downsides, yes.
So you know better what's better for the community than the community members themselves.
I don't make that determination on anybody's behalf, but we have filed this case before the Public Service Commission to make a determination on the merits of the case.
You have filed this application in front of the Public Service Commission to override the zoning laws and the wishes of the community in which this project will be created.
State law requires that any project over 2 megawatts be subject to the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission. So in that sense, we're complying with state law.
But you're certainly not complying with the Montgomery County zoning ordinances or the Montgomery County master plan, which is the expression of the community. You're not complying with them, are you?
Montgomery County zoning ordinance does not give them jurisdiction over projects greater than 2 megawatts.
Does this project violate the Montgomery County zoning laws?
It complies with all parts of the zoning law except for the location on Class 2 soils and the size at 2 megawatts. It
Yes,
exceeds that size.
and the fact that it's on Class 2 soils means that it violates the zoning law. Isn't it as simple as that?
Yes, as the local zoning is written, it does violate that provision.
Yeah. But, okay. Does Chopperton make its own solar panels?
No.
And the panels the panels that Chopperton does buy, they're put up horizontally across farm fields, true?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by horizontally.
They go flat across the field.
Well, generally, they're mounted either on a fixed tilt racking with a fixed orientation to the southern horizon, or they're mounted on trackers which rotate east to west throughout the day.
They cover the ground, do they not?
No, they don't. They're elevated off the ground, and there's space between rows of panels.
But if I were a drone looking down at the field on which this project is going to go, I would see solar panels much more than I would see farmland, true?
I don't agree with that characterization. In the case of this project, the row spacing is approximately equal to the width of the panels, and so that is roughly, the ground cover ratio is less than 50%, and so in fact you would see more ground than solar panels.
Okay, but you're going to cover roughly 50% of the ground?
Slightly less.
Okay.
And to be clear, we're not covering the ground. The only thing penetrating the ground is the piles that the panels are mounted on. But to your point, from a bird's eye view, it would appear as if roughly 50% of the ground is covered in solar panels.
Okay. Are you aware that some solar companies put up vertical solar panels at the edges of fields?
I have seen this in a hypothetical sense, but I have not seen it in a commercial, practical application, no.
You're not aware that there are existing commercial applications already in place?
I've seen some photos of that kind of application in Europe, but no, I've never seen one here in the United States.
Okay. Has Chopperton ever considered putting up vertical panels and saving farmland? Vertical panels go up on the edges of fields, correct?
In the photos that I've seen, they were mounted sort of along the fence line, but
Right.
no, we haven't given it consideration because we have to do what's commercially viable in order to get financing for our projects. And generally that technology or that approach is not widely deployed in the United States and thus would not likely be able to be financed for purposes of construction.
I can identify 5 separate companies that sell vertical panels in the U.S., so they are available for purchase in the U.S. Do you agree with that?
I'm really not knowledgeable on vertical solar panel mounting.
Okay. Why wouldn't that be a way to serve the community and serve the needs of alternative power sources, alternative energy sources?
In theory, I think it is a one approach. However, it's not widely commercially deployed. And so we focus on solutions that have broad commercial appeal so that we can finance construction.
Yes. So this is a question of money?
Bankability.
Yeah. Okay. In your June 19 testimony in this proceeding, you said that you wanted to clarify, quote, that the applicant is not making commitments at this time that the project will deploy agrivoltaic strategies. You went on to say, there's a possibility we might do it at a point in the future, but they're not part of the project's current design. That was in June of 2024, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. And then in August 28, you said that Chaperton was, quote, committing to incorporate agrivoltaic practices as part of the project, such that the site will generate both clean electricity and agricultural products, close quote. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Since the time of my June testimony, we've partnered with Energy, and that report has been provided in the record. Their recommendation was to consider grazing on this site.
Right. The Okavate report said that growing crops was really not feasible.
They did say it did say based on the spacing of panels that reduced irradiance would make it difficult to grow some crops. Other crops actually benefited from greater shading between the rows.
Yeah, but their advice to you was to try to graze sheep to satisfy an agrivoltaic goal.
That was their primary recommendation. Yes.
And do you remember how much money they said that a sheep grower might be expected to earn annually growing sheep on the Sugarloaf property?
I don't recall that number.
Does it refresh your recollection to say that the number was about $7,000 a year?
I have it in the report. I can verify that.
Okay. Do you think that an effective agrivoltaics program is essential to approval of the Sugarloaf project?
I think it is not strictly required under the public utilities article because this project is not co-located. Even in that case, it's not strictly required. But recognizing that it is in the Ag Reserve and the robust history of the Ag Reserve, we think it's appropriate here.
You think it's appropriate?
I do.
Okay. How many of the other 130 projects that are either completed or in the pipeline use agrivoltaics?
Well, only projects that are operational use agrivoltaics. I don't have a precise number, but at least half of the projects that we have constructed, so let's say 4 to 5 projects have sheep grazing on site.
Sheep
today.
grazing?
Correct.
Okay. In your testimony that you proposed that you would, as a condition of approval, submit an agrivoltaics plan to the Maryland Department of Agriculture 30 days prior to operation of the project.
That's correct.
Okay. And so you testified a few minutes ago that you thought a reasonable date to begin operation of the project is mid-2026.
I do think that's reasonable.
Okay. So you're going to submit a plan to the Maryland Department of Agriculture sometime in 2026.
If not sooner, yes.
Yeah. What happens if the Maryland Department of Agriculture finds that plan unacceptable?
Well, my current understanding is that it would actually be approved by the Montgomery County Office of Agriculture because the project is not subject to co-location requirements under the Public Utilities article. The PPRP has recommended that that plan be approved by Montgomery County.
Okay. But there's no assurance that there's actually going to be any agrivoltaics on this property. You're going to submit a plan. It may be accepted. It may not be accepted.
To the degree that we can come to a compromise with Montgomery County Office of Agriculture, we do intend to implement agrivoltaics, and because it's required as a condition by PPRP, we'd be obligated to do so in order to comply with the licensing conditions. Excuse me.
And so if you can't establish a viable agrivoltaic project, are you going to stop operating the project?
We would never get under construction if we can't get to a project that is approved by the Office of Agriculture.
I see. Okay. So you're saying that an approved agrivoltaic program is a precondition to the start of construction on this project?
It is getting approval, seeking approval of that plan is a recommended licensing condition by the PPRP. Those final conditions have not yet been issued in this case, but I would presume it reasonable that that would be a condition of the case.
Okay. Chaberton submitted a draft request for proposals to Montgomery County on December 2, 2024.
That sounds accurate.
Um, and this is going to, given what Okavate has said, this is going to be sent out to people who are prospective sheep raisers.
That was consistent with their primary recommendation, yes.
Okay. This proposal is not going to be released to the public until after the project gets approved. Is that correct?
I don't think there's anything prohibiting us from releasing the RFP prior to issuance of a CPCN if it were to be granted. In fact, we've circulated that with the Montgomery County Office of Agriculture for their input, and I believe that they have circulated it to others in the community for their feedback.
But it hasn't been, it's not a public document. It's not an RFP out there in the marketplace.
We haven't issued a formal solicitation, no.
Have you actually read that document?
I don't recall whether I read it.
Well, I've read it. So you can't answer my question whether it's even remotely possible that someone would actually submit a proposal in response to that request.
Well, until we issue the solicitation, I can't really speculate on that. However, it's by no means a document that's set in stone and not subject to revision to make it commercially attractive.
It requires a sheep farmer to have liability insurance that includes Chaperton as an insured. Isn't that correct?
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah. So I'm checking my notes again, Mr. Boswell, and Okavate said in its report that the yearly profit would be $7,500.
I'll take your word for that.
Okay. Unless you actually paid the sheep farmer to cut your grass, in which case the number would go up.
That's often the consideration when we're choosing grazing, even when we're not obligated to, is that it's cost effective compared to mowing.
Okay, suppose you get no responses to the RFP, or suppose you don't get any responses that you find acceptable. That's the end of agrivoltaics at Sugarloaf, right?
No, sir, we would just have to come up with a new strategy that had commercial appeal, I suppose.
And in the meantime, while that process proceeded, you would not break ground.
Assuming that it's a condition of the final order in this case, then no, we would not proceed with construction until we had an approved agrivoltaics plan.
Okay, and if it was not a condition, though, you would proceed without an agrivoltaics plan.
If it were not a condition, yes, likely we would.
Okay. Your June 19, 2024 testimony contained an Appendix A titled "The Final Report from Maryland's Task Force to Study Solar Alternatives," which was published in April 2024. Does that ring a bell?
It does.
Yeah. That task force included 4 industry representatives, some people from Solar Energy World, CI Renewables, also representatives of the Association of Builders and Contractors. Do you recall that composition of the task force?
I don't recall it specifically, but I do have the task force report in front of me. I have the members in front of me, sir.
Yeah, so I'll repeat my question. That included 4 industry representatives from companies such as Solar Energy Wind and CI Renewables. Brian Hacker, Solar Energy Winds.
I'm not seeing that name on my list of members. Here it is, page 2. Yes?
And there was a representative of the Association of Builders and Contractors. So the industry was well represented on Maryland's task force to study solar incentives. Would you agree?
I would say it was represented. I can't speak to the quality of that representation.
Okay. And on page Roman X, at the beginning in summary, the report recommends, quote, it recommends the efficient use of land in the state by maximizing the production of solar energy on previously developed property, including rooftops, parking canopies, and brownfield sites or energy or transportation rights of way. Does Chaberton have any solar projects on rooftops?
We have some in our pipeline, but we don't have any currently operating.
Do you have any solar projects on parking lots?
Again, we have some in our pipeline, but not currently operating.
So when you say some in your pipeline, you've got about 130 projects in your pipeline. Are we talking about 3 or 40?
Fewer than 10.
Fewer than 10. Okay. Have you ever completed, or do you have any in the pipeline that are proposed for services, for other services that are not farmland?
We have some in our pipeline that are on brownfields.
And how many of those?
I would say fewer than 5.
Right. So the overwhelming number of Chaberton's projects are on farmland. Is that a safe conclusion?
That's true. That's
Okay.
true.
How much does Chaberton offer landowners in the ag reserve per acre?
That information is confidential.
Yeah, Your Honor, respectfully, I'm going to object to that question. That's highly sensitive, competitive information.
Sustained.
Is it safe to say that it is a higher per acre price than the farmer would get, than the owner would get from a leasing farmer?
Based on the numbers I saw in the testimony from your clients, yes, it is higher.
Thank you, Mr. Boswell.
Thank you.
Commission staff?
No questions from staff.
You stated on cross-examination that you have 10 projects in operation in Maryland and 2 in Delaware. Are those being operated by Chaberton?
We create a special purpose vehicle for each project that we develop, and that company continues to operate the project even after we transact. But we are Chaberton Energy Holdings is a developer. Chaberton Solar Sugarloaf will be the Sugarloaf 1 in this case will be the operating company.
And does Chaberton develop projects and then sell them to other folks besides the Chaberton operator?
Typically, that special purpose vehicle set up for the purpose of each project is sold to an independent power producer.
So how many does Chaberton Development operate?
Currently, we technically have 0 projects that we own that are in operation.
Has this project been sold?
No, it has not.
How many other Chaberton developments are there in Maryland at this time?
In pipeline or in operation?
In pipeline,
I would speculate that that's well over 100 sites.
in Maryland?
Correct.
And how many of those have been sold?
The fewer than 10 that are in operation.
And is it Chaberton Development or Chaberton, the operator, that does the construction?
Technically, that construction happens under the project level company. So in this case, it would be Chaberton Solar Sugarloaf 1 LLC that would be contracting for that construction.
Okay. Now, you've stated that agrivoltaics is a commitment for this project. Is that right?
That's correct.
How do you define agrivoltaics?
Broadly, I would define it as continued agricultural operations in concert with operations of the solar facility.
And specifically regarding your commitment in this case?
We intend to graze sheep, graze livestock, most likely sheep.
It seemed like you testified under cross-examination that you thought that the PPRP conditions require agrivoltaics for this case. Is that right?
Let me review those conditions if you don't mind.
Sure. You're looking at condition 13.
Your Honor, upon review, it doesn't appear to require it. It simply says if agrivoltaics is employed, the following conditions should be met, including approval of the plan by Montgomery County Office of Ag.
You're aware, I hope, that Chaberton submitted a, let's see, what did we call it? A settlement status update on February 7th, indicating that it accepted the conditions proposed by both PPRP and staff.
I am aware.
Have you also seen the conditions proposed by Park and Planning if the CPCN is granted?
I did review those, yes.
Does Chaberton object to those requirements?
We do not.
Under your broad definition of agrivoltaics, would keeping bees on the property satisfy that definition?
We have proposed that as an agrivoltaic solution on another project. So yes, I think so. Based on current changes in the law, it will not meet the state's definition of agrivoltaics going forward.
What about the growing of pollinator-friendly habitat?
On its own, I don't believe that that meets the definition of agrivoltaics.
Okay. If you were to submit a plan for agrivoltaics that was approved by the county, and if you went ahead and issued an RFP and didn't get bids for sheep grazing, would you consider planting low-level plants?
We've done some preliminary investigation into cropping low-level plants, and we would certainly give it further consideration.
When we're talking about sheep grazing, you said you do that in at least half of the operating Chaberton facilities. Are you talking about sheep grazing where the sheep are on the property 24/7, or are you talking about where a farmer brings in the sheep, once every week or every 2 weeks to graze and control the undergrowth?
I'm not intimately familiar with the details, but my understanding is it's more of a rotational grazing, and they're not there 24/7.
Why hasn't Chaberton issued an RFP at this point?
Generally, we want to have some certainty that the project will be able to move forward, or in other words, that we'll be granted a CPCN before we solicit further interest in the project.
What triggers decommissioning in the plan for this project?
If I may review the plan.
Sure.
It appears, Your Honor, that the project would be decommissioned at the end of its useful life. It would also be decommissioned if it had been abandoned or there was no electricity generated for a period of 12 months. It's possible also that in the event of a force majeure event like a tornado or a strong hurricane, that may trigger decommissioning as well.
Where can I find a description for end of useful life?
I don't believe it's contained in the decommissioning plan, but it would be the end of commercial operations. Typically, we estimate that to be 40 years under normal conditions.
Usually there's at least some electricity still being produced, a trickle, right, at the end. So what's the definition of, you just said no electricity being produced. So I guess I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, so I think maybe a better trigger there would be the end of the lease period, which is a base period of 20 years with 4 or 5 year extensions, at the end of which we would surrender our rights on the property.
Has Chaberton gotten to that point on any of its projects?
No, we have not.
Does Chaberton consider attempting to reuse any of the panels at that point?
Is the question, do we consider salvage of the panels?
Yeah.
Yes.
For this project or just in general?
In general, we're looking for commercially viable opportunities to salvage. We have one partner who has a facility in Tennessee. We haven't found anybody in the Mid-Atlantic area that offers reasonable salvage.
Okay, so has Chaberton made any plans to extend a lease at the end of the initial lease term and to either replace panels or to use salvage panels?
Through the initial lease period, we would have options to extend for periods of 5 years. We would consider repowering if it was commercially attractive.
Does Montgomery County have any decommissioning regulations?
They do.
Several of PPRP's conditions require Chaberton to go to Montgomery County for various approvals. What happens if Chaberton is not successful in getting those approvals?
I think we would do our best to reach a commercially viable compromise, but in the event that we feel like a compromise can't be reached, we would come back to the commission and I guess potentially seek preemption over Montgomery County's requirements.
The proposal at the time of construction, what is the visibility from roads and other businesses and residents?
The project could be visible from the residence of the property owners who are with us today, but it cannot be viewed from a public right-of-way or any other surrounding residences.
Even at the time of construction, it's not visible from any other residences nearby?
There's an abandoned residence adjacent to the project site, but I don't believe there's visibility from any surrounding residences. Let me just review the plan quickly. I think based on existing vegetative screening, there's not visibility into the site from adjacent residences.
I don't have any further questions. First, does any party have any questions based on my questions?
No, Your Honor.
Do you have any redirect based on my questions or cross-examination?
Just very quickly, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Boswell, can you please turn to your rebuttal testimony? And specifically page 2.
Okay.
And I'm looking at, starting on line 1. Do you remember when Mr. Sheehan was asking you about the final report from Maryland Solar Task Force?
I do.
Okay. And did you testify in your? Could you please read, starting on line 2, where it says the final report?
Hold on. You said rebuttal testimony?
Rebuttal, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that
Supplemental.
rebuttal? I'm sorry. Supplemental testimony. I apologize.
No worries. I was on rebuttal and I wasn't where you were.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Could you please read from line 2?
The final report from Maryland's task force to study solar incentives, published in April 2024 and included as Appendix A to the supplemental direct testimony, estimates that up to 35,000 acres of land, a large portion of which will be farmland, will be needed to achieve the state's current RPS requirement to generate at least 14.5% of its electricity from solar sources by 2030.
Thank you, Mr. Boswell. And now, could I ask you, please, to turn to that Appendix A in your supplemental testimony, which is that task force report. And could I please get you to turn to Roman numerals 13 and 14?
Okay?
Do you see the list of task force members here?
I do.
And do you remember when Mr. Sheen was asking you about the task force members?
I do.
Do you see that as part of the task force, and I'm looking on towards the bottom of Roman numeral page 13, do you see the name Justin Fiore from the Maryland Municipal League?
I do.
You see Andrea Crooms from the Maryland Association of Counties Urban.
I do.
You see Michael Fowler from Maryland Association of Counties Suburban.
Yes, I do.
Going over to Roman numeral 14, do you see Robert Sandless from the Maryland Association of Counties Rural?
I do.
Okay. So, Mr. Boswell, would you say that local governments were represented on this task force?
It appears they were also well represented.
Thank you. That's all that I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this point, the applicant would like to call Mr. Andrew Reese.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under penalties of perjury that the statements made this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your first and last name.
My name is Andrew Reese, ANDREWREESE.
Your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Reese. Could you please give us your name again and your position of employment and business address?
Yeah, my name again is Andrew Reese. I'm the Renewable Energy Practice Area Leader and Senior Project Manager for ARM Group LLC. I'm located at our Mechanicsburg office, which is 4600 Lena Drive, Suite 201, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, 17055.
Thank you. Mr. Reese, did you cause to be filed in this proceeding a document entitled The Direct Testimony of Andrew Reese, consisting of 2 typed pages of questions and answers and 2 appendices, which was filed in public version only in this proceeding on June 19th, 2024, under mail log number 310345?
Yes, I did.
Did you prepare that document, or was it prepared under your supervision?
Yes, it was.
If I asked you the questions appearing in that document here today, would you provide the same or substantially similar answers?
Yes, sir.
Do you wish to sponsor that document as your direct testimony in this proceeding?
I do.
Your Honor, I'd ask that Mr. Reese's direct testimony and public version only be marked for identification as applicant Exhibit 23, please.
Application Exhibit 23 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, Mr. Reese is available for cross-examination.
Thank you. PPRP,
No cross, Your Honor.
Montgomery County, Park and Planning, MCA, SCA, MCFB, and MAP.
No cross, Your Honor.
Staff,
No cross from staff.
I don't have any questions for this witness. Thank you for your appearance today. Next witness, Mr. Flavin.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this point, the applicant would like to call Ms. Charlotte Boucher.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under penalty of perjury that the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name, spell your first and last name.
My name is Charlotte Boucher, Charlotte, B as in boy, Oucher.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Boucher.
Morning.
Could you please give us your name again and your address?
Charlotte Boucher, 20507 Darnestown Road, Dickerson, Maryland, 20842.
Thank you, Ms. Boucher. And what is your relationship to the proposed project?
I'm one of the landowners with my husband.
Thank you. Ms. Boucher, did you cause to be filed in this proceeding a document entitled The Direct Testimony of Charlotte Boucher, consisting of 3 typed pages of questions and answers, which was filed in public version only in this proceeding on June 19th, 2024, under mail log number 310345?
Well, I'm going to say yes, although those numbers at the end don't sound familiar to me.
Thank you, Ms. Boucher. And was that document prepared by you or under your supervision?
100% by me.
Thank you. If I asked you the same questions appearing in that document here today, would you provide the same or substantially similar answers?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you wish to sponsor that document as your direct testimony in this proceeding?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask that Ms. Boucher's direct testimony in public version only be marked for identification as applicant Exhibit 24, please.
Applicant Exhibit 24 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, Ms. Boucher is available for cross-examination.
PPRP,
No cross, Your Honor.
Montgomery County, Park and Planning,
No cross, Your Honor.
MCA, SCA,
No cross, Your Honor.
staff.
No cross from staff, Your Honor.
I have no questions for you either. Thank you for coming down here today.
My pleasure.
Next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. And for our last witness, the applicant calls Mr. Doug Boucher.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under penalties of perjury that the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Please state your name
You can have a seat.
and spell your first and last name.
Douglas Boucher, Douglas, B as in boy, Oucher.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Boucher.
Good morning.
Could you please give us your name again and your address?
Douglas Boucher, 20507 Darnestown Road, Dickerson, Maryland, 20842.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher. And what is your relationship to the proposed project?
I'm the co-owner of the land on which the project will be located with my wife, Charlotte.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher, did you cause to be filed in this proceeding a document entitled The Direct Testimony of Douglas Boucher, consisting of 6 typed pages of questions and answers, which was filed in public version only in this proceeding on June 9th, 2024, under mail log number 310345?
Yes, I did.
And was that document prepared by you or under your supervision?
Was prepared entirely by me.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher. If I asked you the questions appearing in that document here today, would you provide the same or substantially similar answers?
Yes, I would.
And do you wish to sponsor that document as your direct testimony in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, I'd ask that Mr. Boucher's direct testimony in public version only be marked for identification as applicant exhibit 25.
Applicant exhibit 25 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. And at this time, Mr. Boucher is available for cross-examination.
PPRP,
No cross, Your Honor.
Montgomery County. Park and Planning,
No cross, Your Honor.
the MCA et al.
No cross, Your Honor.
Staff.
No cross, Your Honor.
I don't have any questions. Thank you for coming down today.
Thank you.
Mr. Flavin?
Thank you, Your Honor. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Your Honor, that concludes all of our witnesses. And at this time, Your Honor, I would like to move for the admission of applicant exhibits 1 through,
27?
27.
Any objection?
No objections.
Montgomery County? Park and Planning?
No objection.
MCA?
No objection.
Staff?
No objection.
Applicant exhibits 1 through 27 are admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Does the applicant rest?
Yes, Your Honor, that concludes our case.
PPRP?
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
I would like to first identify the 10 exhibits the PPRP has sponsored for this proceeding
Yes, sir.
and have them marked for identification. The first 8 exhibits, all of which are public, were filed on January the 24th, 2025, all of them under mail log number 315111. PPRP Exhibit 1 for ID is the direct testimony of Supita Pinkow. PPRP Exhibit 2 is the letter signed by the Secretaries of the Maryland Department of Natural Resources and the Maryland Department of the Environment. PPRP Exhibit 3 is the initial recommended license conditions. PPRP Exhibit 4 is a project assessment report called a PAR. PPRP Exhibit 5 is Appendix A to the PAR, which is the applicant's responses to selected PPRP data requests. PPRP Exhibit 6 is Appendix B to the PAR, which is the glare analysis. PPRP Exhibit 7 is Appendix C to the PAR, which is the environmental justice screening report. And PPRP Exhibit 8 is Appendix D to the PAR, which is reference sections of PPRP's website. The next 2 exhibits, PPRP Exhibits 9 and 10, were filed on April the 1st of 2025, both of them under mail log number 317402. PPRP Exhibit 9 is the revised recommended license conditions in clean version, and PPRP Exhibit 10 is the revised recommended license conditions in the red line version. I would note that PPRP Exhibit 9 under recommended license condition 1 in line number 2 has a typographical error. The word limited should be limit, so that ED would be stricken from that in both PPRP Exhibits 9 and 10.
Tell me again the page and line number, please.
It's page 1 of, if you're looking at the clean version of PPRP Exhibit 9.
Yes, sir.
No, RLC number 1 is called project scope, and in line number 2, it talks about limit of disturbance, and then it says limited of construction. It should be limit of construction. Delete the ED.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's the only correction noted at this time. And
All right.
with
Applicant exhibits 1 through 10 are marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I would call to the stand PPRP Project Manager for Sugarloaf, Supita Pinkow.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under penalties of perjury that the statements made this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your first and last name and spell it.
Supida Pukau, Supida Pidapkhou.
Go ahead.
Ms. Pinkow, do you have in front of you PPRP Exhibit 1, which is the direct testimony of Supita Pinkow, filed on January the 24th, 2025, under mail log number 315111?
I do.
Was this testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes, it was.
Is it true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
And if you were testifying under oath today, would your testimony be the same as is provided in PPRP Exhibit 1?
Yes.
Do you therefore wish to adopt it as your direct testimony?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Your Honor, I will tender, oh, it's on. I'll tender the witness.
We're gonna, Montgomery County, do you have any cross? No cross. Park and Planning?
No cross, Your Honor.
MCA?
No, Your Honor.
Staff?
No cross from staff.
Chaberton?
No, Your Honor.
Hi. Okay, so your testimony was filed January 24th, and we've had a lot of filings since then. We've had Chaberton filed rebuttal testimony. Montgomery Countryside Alliance, Sugarloaf Citizens Association, Montgomery County Farm Bureau, Montgomery Agri-Producers filed surrebuttal testimony. I think you wouldn't have seen the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission's recommendation at the time that you filed your direct testimony. And then you filed some somewhat revised recommended license conditions on April 1st, 2025. So do you have any update to your testimony since filing the written testimony?
No, we don't, ma'am. But the revised recommended licensing condition was proposed as part of communication with the county and the applicant, reflecting that some of the conditions may not, need to be clarified for a better implementation in the future.
Okay. So a lot of the revisions had to do with, instead of naming Chaberton as Chaberton Solar Sugarloaf, changing that to the project owner. But there were some other more involved changes. Can you walk me through those, please? And the reason for those?
We can start with the RLC number 5, the site plan, final site plan. That was the one that mainly revised the original site plan condition that PPRP normally proposed. This is to provide clarity and differentiate between the site plan approval and other local permits approval. There seems to be some discrepancy in that. In certain county, the county planning does not have the process to approve the final site plan. And then, for example, for this case with mandatory referral process, the county planning board would already have reviewed the project general site plan, and then subsequent approval will go down to the permitting agency, for example, stormwater management. So that was laid out, and 5C was provided in the case where the applicant will encounter difficulties proceeding to obtaining the local permitting. And the other one that we proposed, the revision was on the forest conservation, because based on the county planning board's recommendation, the applicant is required to comply with the forest conservation plan that was approved by the county. That was different from what PPRP envisioned initially, that was rely on the existing forest conservation easement. But there's apparently the additional forest conservation easement that is required by the county.
Okay, so I don't think that additional information is in the record. So what additionally is required by the county?
It was in the county's I think it was filed as part of the county's mandatory referral, the county planning board, and it was attachment to the planning board. It was mandatory referral number MR 2024-016. and Forest Conservation Plan number F 2025-2220, Chaperton Sugarloaf Continuance Addendum.
Is that in the record, Council?
We did,
It's not. It's not part. It's not in our record.
it's
but,
not in our exhibits.
But it's in the County Planning Board exhibit.
It was filed on January the 24th, Your Honor. It was a letter from the planning board talking about the hearing, the mandatory referral hearing, and yes, Your Honor, and the staff report was an exhibit to that letter.
Okay. Okay, so you're talking about the filing of Park and Planning on January 24th, 2025, mail log 315115, and it's the attachment is what you're referring to.
Yes, Your Honor.
And it's docket number 56, if that helps.
Thanks.
Page 3. That's referred to Forest Conservation recommended license recommendation conditions.
Give me just a second. Okay, thanks for helping me connect the dots on that. Okay. In your testimony on page 21,
Yes, Your Honor.
at line 15, you say, or I guess it starts on 14, due to the existing vegetation, views of the project site are mostly obscured from nearby residences as well as from the adjacent major roads such as Darnestown Road, Dickerson Road, and Big Woods Road. What does that mean, mostly obscured? I think you were here when you heard Chaberton's witness say that there's one abandoned residence that would be able to see the project.
We observed during the site walk, during the site visit, that the project is also surrounded by dense vegetation. And the result of the visibility analysis from the PAR also revealed that the project would be visible to nearby land, farmlands, but not to the adjacent residential receptor.
So what does that mean exactly? That means that from folks' land, several folks' land, they could see it, but not from their actual, like, their home built on that land?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. How many adjacent properties will it be visible from?
I do not recall the number of the parcels that are adjacent to the property, but if I may point it to the PAR, page 18, it's provide the visibility analysis of for the surrounding area.
Yeah, I read that.
Yes.
Okay.
But mostly on the northeast and the west, that would be prone to the view shade of the project.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Do any council have any questions based on mine?
No redirect, Your Honor.
And no redirect. Okay, thank you for your appearance this morning.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, at this time, then, I would like to move for admission into the record of PPRP Exhibits 1 through 10.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
No objection.
PPR exhibits 1 through 10 are admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Montgomery County. Yes, please.
Oh, sorry, that does. Yes, now it is.
No, that's okay.
Okay. Montgomery County just wants to admit for one exhibit into the record.
Okay.
This would be Montgomery County Exhibit 1, filed on January 24th, 2025. This is the written comments of Montgomery County Council and County Executive Mark Elrich with 2 attachments. The first is Section 3.7.2 of Montgomery County Zoning Ordinance, and the second is the December 2023 Impact Report of Montgomery County Solar Collection Systems in the AR Zone. These were all filed under Mail Log 315127.
Montgomery County Exhibit 1 is admitted. Is there any objection to it being entered into the administrative record?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Montgomery County Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you.
Counsel, so I don't have a witness from Montgomery County, but I do have questions. This was filed on January 24th, 2025, and since that time, there's been a commitment for some type of agrivoltaics. So what is the county's position based on that information?
I have no additional information based on the agrivoltaics.
Okay.
If you want me to submit something in writing, is there a bench data request that I can provide a response for you to?
No.
Okay.
The second attachment, the impact report of the Montgomery County Solar Collection Systems in the AR Zone. So in the AR Zone, are there other solars that have qualified under the 3.7.2 zoning ordinance?
I don't have the number. Honestly, my colleague from the planning board might have some more information about that. I thought there had been, but I don't think we referenced. I think they would have been the smaller ones. I don't believe it would have been anything over 4, but can I get back to you on that with a?
Sure.
Okay. So what is the specific question?
Well, so we're required to take into consideration a local government recommendation, and I have some questions based on what Montgomery County's recommendation, like the particulars of Montgomery County's recommendation. I think, let me direct you to a specific page. So on page, on the second attachment that you submitted, the impact report of Montgomery County Solar Collection Systems in the AR Zone, on page 8, let's see, is 8 right? That's not right. Somewhere in this report it indicates that Montgomery County was considering doing away with the restriction on the capacity that could be built in the AR zone, but that there was no intention of going beyond the restriction of Class 1 and Class 2 soils. And this report is dated December 28th, 2023. And I didn't see that anything happened after this report, but I guess my question for Montgomery County is it the soils that this proposed project is located on that Montgomery County is objecting to, or is it the capacity, or is it its existence in the AR zone in general? I just wanted to know the specifics of Montgomery County's recommendation.
It was the combination of the soils and the capacity. So it's over the 2 megawatt limit, and it is on type 1 or type 2 soil.
Okay, give me just a moment.
Sure.
Okay, page 11 of the same attachment that you submitted. Montgomery Planning recommends exploring the removal of the 2 megawatt size limitation for community solar projects. The 2 megawatt size limitation was included due to the state cap for community solar projects at the time. Since creation of these standards, the state has increased the cap for community solar projects to 5 megawatts. If all other standards are met, including maintaining the prohibition of community solar projects on Class 1 and 2 soils, Montgomery Planning does not see the need to restrict the size of solar projects to 2 megawatts. This would provide potential applicants the option of going through our local process and standards or the state process and standards for community solar projects of up to 5 megawatts. So this was, you submitted this was your attachment to your letter. So, but this was something that was issued in 2023.
Yes.
So is Montgomery County objecting to the project based on it being above 2 megawatts?
At this point, it violates both of those things, yes. Both the soil and the size.
Okay. At some point, Montgomery County was participating in the process of including agrivoltaics with this. Is there a type of agrivoltaics that, if included, Montgomery County would be changing their position?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Is the planting of pollinator habitat considered an appropriate use for the AR zone?
That I've not asked any questions about pollinator habitat. I can get back to you on that if you wish.
Is the keeping of bees appropriate for the AR zone?
I haven't asked about specific agrivoltaic usage.
Okay, so not sheep grazing, not planting low-level crops.
I haven't asked any, I'm not aware of any of the specifics of the.
So, and you're not aware of if any, since section 3.7.2 of the Montgomery County zoning ordinance, whether any solar installations have been installed in the AR zone that have complied with that zoning.
Honestly, I don't have the number. I thought there had been, but I don't want to give you correct information on the record. I would be more than happy to get back to you on that, though.
Okay, if you would, if we could consider that bench data request 1.
Sure.
Okay, so long, I just want to make sure I'm right. I just want to make sure I understand what the recommendation is in Montgomery County.
Okay.
So, because this is 4 megawatts and because this is being proposed on Class 2 soils, Montgomery County is opposed to this no matter what type of agrivoltaics are used. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement.
Okay. Is section 3.7.2 of the Montgomery County zoning ordinance a de facto ban on solar in the AR zone?
No.
Okay.
There are other types of soil, and there's other sizes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So is it just the one bench DR request?
Yes,
You want to know
ma'am.
how many?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I will provide that information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Park and Planning?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would have no witnesses, but I would ask that our one exhibit which I referenced earlier, the letter and staff report filed on January the 24th, 2025, docket number 56, mail log number 315115, which is, as I said, the letter and the staff report, recommending denial and proposed conditions if approved, following the mandatory referral in front of the planning board, which was number MR 2024-0156, and Forest Conservation Plan approval, number F20250-220. And just for the purposes of the record, the planning board recommended denial 3-2, and they recommended approval of the Forest Conservation Plan 4-0 with one abstention.
Okay, and I think all of that is included in that submission on January 24th, 2025.
It is, Your Honor, yes.
Okay, so again, this was a January 24th, 2020. First of all, let's mark that as Park and Planning Exhibit 1. Any objection to its admittance into the procedural record?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so Park and Planning Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So, since the time that was filed, there's been a commitment for agrivoltaics. Does that change I don't know if there have been any other meetings, if you've had any.
The planning board hearing on January the 9th was the final planning board action on this.
Okay. Okay. Do you know if there are any other solar installations in the ag zone?
I'm not certain, Your Honor. If there are any which have been approved under the county's conditional use process, I believe it's a relatively small number, but I am not certain.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else for Park and Planning?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. MCA, does anybody need to take a break? I'm good to keep going, but okay. MCA, SCA, MCFB, and MAP.
Judge, we've got 2 exhibits. Shall I pre-mark them now or wait until the testimony is ongoing?
Your preference.
Okay, I'll pre-mark them now. The first is the testimony of Caroline Taylor on January 24, 2025. It's docket number 57, and it is ML number 315120. Now, that same document also includes the direct testimony of Doug Leckleiter, also on January 24, 2025. Same docket number and same ML, same mail log number.
Okay.
So that would be.
Let's mark the direct testimony of Carolyn Taylor as SCA Exhibit 1 and the direct testimony of Doug Leckleiter as SCA Exhibit 2.
Okay. And then our third exhibit, Your Honor, is the surrebuttal testimony of Caroline Taylor on March 7, 2025, docket number 70, and mail log number 316543.
Let's mark the surrebuttal testimony of witness Taylor as Exhibit 3.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to call Caroline Taylor to the stand, please.
Thank you. Any objection to SCA Exhibits 1, 2, or 3? You can come on up.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
No objection.
SCA Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 are admitted into the administrative record.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under penalties of perjury that the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your first and last name.
Caroline Taylor, CarolineTaylor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, counsel.
Ms. Taylor, please tell us your occupation.
I'm Executive Director for nonprofit Montgomery Countryside Alliance.
Would you briefly describe what the Montgomery Countryside Alliance is and does?
Sure, Montgomery Countryside Alliance is a 501c3 membership organization addressed in Montgomery County's Agricultural Reserve, and our mission is the protection of productive farmland, family farms, natural resources that support those farms, and wise transportation planning.
And how many members and supporters does the Montgomery Countryside Alliance have?
Shy of 10,000.
Okay. Ms. Taylor, did you submit testimony in this case on January 24?
I did.
Was that testimony prepared by you or directly under your supervision?
It was.
Okay. If I asked you the questions that were asked in that document today, would your answers be the same?
They would.
Do you wish to adopt that document as your testimony in this proceeding?
Yes, please.
Okay. Judge, can I ask additional questions and add to that testimony?
Any objection?
I suppose it may depend on the question, but generally no, Your Honor.
We don't normally allow for that, but without objection, we'll allow some limited questioning.
Okay, it'll be very brief. Would you tell us what the Sugarloaf Citizens Association is?
Sugarloaf Citizens Association, another intervener in this proceeding, is also a 501c3. They are older than our organization, dating back to the 1970s, and have endeavored to protect the rural portion of Montgomery County, generally surrounding Sugarloaf Mountain in the Agricultural Reserve.
And can you tell us something about the Montgomery Agricultural Producers?
MAP is a membership organization consisting entirely of agricultural producers, various kinds, commodity, orchard, alcohol production, small table crops.
Ms. Taylor, did you submit rebuttal testimony in this case on March 7, 2025?
Yes.
Was that testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
It was.
And if I asked you the questions that you were asked in preparing and submitting that rebuttal testimony on March 7 today, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
And Ms. Taylor, do you wish to adopt that document as your additional testimony in this proceeding?
Yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Judge.
Staff, any cross?
No cross from staff.
Okay, we're going to go backwards. Park and Planning.
No, Your
Montgomery County. PPRP.
No, Your Honor.
Applicant.
Yes, Your Honor, a few questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Taylor.
Good morning.
My name is Andy Flavin. I'm counsel for the applicant. Just had a couple questions, starting with your direct testimony. Can you please turn to page 10 of your direct testimony? Are you there? Okay. And may I get you to please look at line 15? Starting on line 15, you state, at this time, however, there's insufficient data to indicate that agrivoltaics will be successful in our growing conditions, nor have any solar companies agreed to move forward with projects on ag-reserve farmland to support existing production. Do you see that?
I do.
I believe you're aware that the applicant is proposing to incorporate agrivoltaics with this project?
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree with me that if a CPCN were issued in this case and agrivoltaics were incorporated, that would provide some data concerning potential success of agrivoltaics in Montgomery County?
I would not agree that that would be science-based data, as it's a commercial project not related to or associated with a university or a scientific study, which is what we've been asking for several years.
Okay, so in the absence of any agrivoltaics experience or data in Montgomery County, if we were to incorporate agrivoltaics here, that still wouldn't provide any new data?
When you say data, I assume science-based with metrics in terms of crop yields and economics and all the rest of it. And so I could not make the determination that your commercial project with, as you've stated, grazing would constitute an agrivoltaics data-driven study.
Okay, thank you. May I get you to please turn the page to page 11 of your direct testimony? And starting at line 1, you state that the ZTA is not a significant barrier to solar projects in the ag reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that?
I do.
Now, you haven't provided any analysis of the amount of land with Class 3 soils in the agricultural reserve that is suitable for solar development, correct?
I have not. However, the County of Montgomery prepared that mapping in advance of the passage of ZTA 2001. I'm trying to remember the total amount of acreage, but it was in excess of, I believe, 2,000 acres on Class 3 and above soils that were still available for solar deployment. And given the restriction of 1,800 acres, it seemed more than enough to potentially host. That would depend on the location of solar.
And do you know if that analysis that you're describing, did that analyze the proximity of sufficient three-phase electric infrastructure?
Yeah, they had layers that included proximity to infrastructure, streams, slopes, forest, all of those layers, and I believe it was the county executive's DEP that created that document, and if it's not in the record, perhaps it would be helpful if it were.
And do you know when that analysis was done? And I guess you mentioned that it looked at the proximity to electrical infrastructure. Did Montgomery County have access to the data from the electric utilities regarding the loading on all those circuits and the available capacity?
I cannot answer that question. I do not know.
And just sticking on the same topic, talking about that amount of land with Class 3 soils that was identified in that analysis, do you have you or anyone that you know of comprehensively solicited landowners whose property contains Class 3 soils to see if they're willing to lease their property for solar development?
I want to make sure I understand your question. You're asking me if my nonprofit has solicited people with that class and above soils if they'd like to pursue solar. Perhaps not a direct answer to that. I will say that with the Montgomery County Green Bank, MCA has hosted 3 webinars to instruct farm owners about the provisions of the ZTA, which included accessory solar being lifted to 200% and the provisions with regard to community solar, so they can understand what they can do if they want to pursue projects. But going individually to landowners, we have not. These have been webinars, and those webinars live on our website.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that you don't know how many landowners that have Class 3 soils are willing to lease their land for solar development?
That's a fair statement. I do not know.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Starting on line 2, so I'm still on page 11 of your direct testimony. Starting on line 2, you state that to the extent any significant barrier to solar facility development in the ag reserve exists, it is widely shared knowledge in the Montgomery County agricultural community that the PJM Interconnection LLC interconnection queue backlog has been a primary delaying factor since ZTA 20-01 was enacted. Do you see that?
I do.
Do you know, is this project that's being proposed here today, will that interconnect via PJM?
I believe it's a PJM on the PJM grid. That's my understanding. And if I may, this is not just widely known by the agricultural community. The media has covered the backlog of PJM projects that are number in the thousands. So, and I believe Office of Agriculture could further tell you about projects that were in the queue in Montgomery County.
Let me rephrase that. Is it your understanding that this project needs to go through the PJM queue and obtain approval through the PJM interconnection process before it can interconnect?
This I don't know, but
Okay.
I believe if I recall, that you said that that the applicant represented that it had already gone through a process that may already have that approval.
Right. Would you agree with me, subject to check, that the applicant has obtained and executed interconnection agreement through Potomac Edison, who's a local utility?
Again, you've said that, so I accept what you're saying. But as my understanding is, Potomac Edison is on the PJM grid, so that's.
Yes. So I understand it's on the PJM grid, but would it be fair to say that you don't know whether this project or similarly situated community solar projects need to obtain interconnection approval from PJM versus the local distribution utility via the state interconnection process?
So to answer your question, that's above my pay grade. I don't know that. I will if I could answer a bit further. There's a question that's been asked, because I think what we're getting at here is whether or not the provisions of 2001 were prohibitive to solar moving forward. The question was asked by the hearing examiner, how many projects have moved forward? As I understand it, and I asked yesterday, there have been four projects that have submitted under the conditional use approval. 2 have been approved. 1 is in the process of being approved. 1 was denied for the reason that they were using concrete footers, and those are not allowed in the zoning code. So the only 1 project that submitted was denied.
Do you know how large those projects were?
I do not.
Okay. Ms. Taylor, may I ask you to turn to your SIR rebuttal, please?
Yes.
Oh, great. Sorry, just give me one moment here. All right, if I could ask you to please turn to page 6.
I'm there. I'm sorry.
Okay. And starting on line 5, you state that the applicant repeatedly asserts that Montgomery County zoning standards are unduly inhibiting its ability to pursue projects in Montgomery County. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay, and then moving on now, going through line 12, you describe how ZTA 20-01, quote, conditions the solar industry in order to maintain the master plan's preservation of agriculture, end quote, and then, quote, protects the primacy of agriculture in the ag reserve, close quote. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay, and I guess just to make sure I understand, would it be fair to say that you do not agree that ZTA 20-01 unduly inhibits solar development in the ag reserve?
That's correct.
Okay. And now, as part of your rebuttal testimony, you haven't provided any further analysis about the land of Class 3 soils in the agricultural reserve that's suitable for solar development, correct?
I have not, but as referenced previously, that mapping was conducted by the county.
Okay, and as part of that mapping, I think we established that you don't know whether the county had the information concerning the loading and capacity on the distribution infrastructure that was apparently mapped with that, correct?
I cannot answer that.
Okay.
If I may add to that answer, however, there are projects that are moving through the system that are meeting the conditional use provisions, so they haven't been prohibited from moving forward in Montgomery County. And one other note, Montgomery County, 2/3 of Montgomery County allows solar as a limited use with few barriers. There's only one area that has conditional requirements, and that's the agricultural reserve, master planned agricultural reserve. Moreover, in research have shown that Montgomery County is number 2 in the state in terms of solar generation in all the various projects that they have.
Thank you. And I have I'll have a question for you about that in just a minute. But before getting to that, and again, just wanted to confirm here, because we're talking about that plan again in relation to this set of questions. And as part of your SIR rebuttal testimony, you haven't provided any additional analysis concerning the amount of landowners with Class 3 soils who'd be willing to lease their property for solar development, correct?
So to repeat, no, I have not provided the number of property owners that would be willing to
Okay.
lease.
Thank you. Now, can I get you to look to line 15 on that same page? We're still on page 6 of your SIR rebuttal. And I think this gets to the point that you just made. You state that Montgomery County is second only to Prince George's County, Maryland, in solar energy output at 187.4 megawatts. Do you see that?
I do.
And I apologize if I missed it. I didn't see in here a citation for where that number came from. Can you clarify for me where that came from?
It's from PSC. I'm sorry, I should have put the citation. That's from PSC documentation in terms of the ranking of the counties, all of them in terms of output. And if hearing examiner would like, I can provide that citation to you.
Counsel, I'd ask that that be bench data request too, because that was my question that I had for this witness
Yeah.
as well, where that came from.
Yeah.
So my bench data request to you is on page 6 of the SIR rebuttal testimony of this witness at lines 15 and 16, where that came from.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you agree with me that that number most likely came from the Maryland Public Service Commission's report entitled "The Status of Programs That Support the State's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Efforts or Address Climate Change," report of 2024? And it looks something like this.
I cannot say for sure because I'm not looking at it, but I can look back through my notes. And again, my apologies, it's a miscitation.
No worries.
Now, I think if I'm, I guess understanding that you may not be able to verify for me if this is the exact report that it came from, I see that number, that 187.4 megawatt number, in Appendix E to this report, where it's in a chart entitled "Capacity of Renewable Energy Facilities Located in Maryland," parentheses megawatts, where it lists the various Maryland localities and the amount of solar that they have. Does that sound like probably where you got that information?
Again, I really don't want to answer that question without looking through my notes to see. I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
Okay. That sounds good. Okay, so maybe I'll skip a couple questions I had about that. Would you agree with me that subject to check, Montgomery County is Maryland's most populous county with more than 1 million people?
Sure.
Okay. And would you agree with me that other localities in Maryland that may have almost as much installed solar, for example, like Queen Anne's County and Somerset County, but with a much smaller population than Montgomery County, would have a higher installed solar capacity per capita than Montgomery County?
Okay.
Okay. I apologize. Since you're not familiar with the specific location of that, I can't go through that maybe in quite as much detail as I hope to. So I apologize. I'll end there, Your Honor, with Ms. Taylor. Thank you.
Okay. The questions that you were asking this witness, you were asking based on a report. Can you read the cover page for that report into the record?
Yes, Your Honor. This is the report of the Maryland Public Service Commission, Status of Programs That Support the State's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Efforts or Address Climate Change, report of 2024 for calendar year 2023, pursuant to Section 2-1305C of the Environmental Article, Annotated Code of Maryland.
Is there a mail log number?
No, Your Honor. This was posted directly on the Commission's website.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, I don't have any questions. Does anyone ever, other than counsel, have any questions based on that cross-examination? Okay, counsel for MCA, do you have any redirect?
Don't. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you for your appearance.
Thank you
this
very
morning.
much. Happy Earth Day.
Your Honor, I'd like now to call Mr. Doug Lecklider to the stand, please.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly affirm under penalties of perjury that the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name, spell your first and last name.
Douglas Lecklider, Douglas, Lecklider, Lechllider.
Go ahead, counsel.
Mr. Lecklider, please tell us your occupation.
I am a farmer.
And do you have some association with the Montgomery County Farm Bureau?
Yes, I am currently the first vice president of Montgomery County Farm Bureau.
And tell us something briefly. What is the Montgomery County Farm Bureau?
It is a member organization that was, to my best knowledge, formed in Montgomery County in 1923. And it's our purview to represent our farmer members and farmer associate members in their interest in Montgomery County.
Mr. Lecklider, you submitted testimony in this proceeding on January 24, 2025. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was that prepared by you or under your direct supervision?
Yes.
If I asked you the questions that were posed in that testimony, if I asked you those questions today, would your answers be the same?
They would.
Do you wish to adopt that document as your testimony in this proceeding?
I would.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. I would like to be assured that my 3 exhibits have been admitted.
They have.
Thank you. No further questions. Thank you.
Cross-examination by staff?
No cross, Your Honor.
Park and Planning?
No cross, Your Honor.
Montgomery County?
No cross, Your Honor.
PPRP?
No cross, Your Honor.
Chaberton?
Just a couple questions, Your Honor.
Sure.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Lecklider.
Good morning.
My name's Andy Flavin. I'm counsel for the applicant.
Yes.
Can I please get you to turn to page 9 of your direct testimony?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess starting at line 8, just so you start off by referencing ZTA 20-01. And I believe you testified that you were part of the work group that came up with some recommendations related that ultimately influenced ZTA 20-01?
I was.
Okay. And can you tell me, was the initial recommendation of that group to exempt just Class 1 soils from solar development?
It's my recollection that we was trying to follow the Maryland Farm Bureau, which recommended Class 1 and 2. That is my recollection.
Okay. So you don't remember now if any initial recommendations were submitted with just trying to exempt Class
I do
1?
not think so. In fact, I do believe that we originally was looking at Class 1, 2, and 3. And Class 3 was, we gave up that was a give. We gave that out.
Okay.
Compromise.
I will move on then. Still on line 8 here. In this paragraph, lines 8 through 16, you discuss soil classes in the Ag Reserve, correct?
Correct.
And on lines 10 and 11, you note that Class 1 and Class 2 soils are the most productive soils. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And you also state that Class 1 and Class 2 soils are extremely valuable to crop production. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And then starting on line 14, you note that most of the crop production in Montgomery County is on Class 2 and 3 soils. Class 1 soils are primarily alluvial and not suitable for agriculture. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. I was hoping, I'm not a farmer. I was hoping maybe you could clarify that, because to me that seems like a little bit of an inconsistency.
You are correct. We intended to amend that. It was kind of I know it's misleading. Class 1 soils are usually very close to water and could be wet. I'm sure there may be some that is farmed, but it's mostly Class 2 and 3 and above. In fact, I have a farm that is entirely Class 3 and above that's been farmed for many, many, many years in Montgomery County.
So is it still your position that Class 2 and Class 3 soils are better than Class 1 soils for agriculture, or not?
No.
No. Okay. But you stated that I think it would be most crop production in Montgomery County is on Class 2 and Class 3 soils, right?
Correct.
Is that because of an absence of Class 1 soils, or is that for some other reason?
It is less Class 1 soils than Class 2 and 3, correct.
Okay. So just to make sure I'm understanding, would you say that, can you tell me, are Class 1 soils better than Class 2 and 3 soils for crop production, or worse, or the same?
I probably cannot answer that question. Each individual location of that soil would be different, but Class 1 soil would grow crops, yes.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Lecklider, you haven't provided any analysis of the amount of land with Class 3 soils in the agricultural reserve that's suitable for solar development, correct?
I have not.
Okay. And you haven't solicited landowners whose property contains Class 3 soils to see if they're willing to lease their property for solar development?
I would not solicit farmers to lease their land for solar development. I will, if I may, say that under Montgomery County zoning, I said I had a farm with Class 3 soils on it, and I did, after the CTA was passed, entertain the idea, but the electric company did not want it at the time, so it was dropped.
Okay. But just to make clear, you said you haven't asked any other.
I have not.
Okay. Last question I have for you. Did you review Mr. Boucher's direct testimony in this case?
I believe that I have read it, but I would not want to try to quote from it.
Understood. Do you remember from his testimony where Mr. Boucher testified that if the PSC does not grant a CPCN in this case, that the Bouchers intend to reforest their remaining open land?
I do absolutely remember that, yes.
Okay. So in your view, would it be better to let that land reforest or to incorporate solar with agrivoltaics?
From my view, I would rather see it reforested
Okay.
because of the precedent in going against Montgomery County zoning.
Okay. And if it's reforested, it won't be able to harvest crops from it, correct?
Correct.
Or conduct other agricultural activity?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. That's all the questions I have.
So, sir, is that statement in your direct testimony at page 9, line 15, Class 1 soils are primarily alluvial and not suitable for agriculture? Is that a mistake?
I wish it was not there. I knew the question was going to come.
Okay. Questions from other counsel besides the witnesses' counsel?
No, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your appearance.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Not for me.
Commission staff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Staff has one exhibit in this case. It's the direct testimony of Christopher Lowe, filed on January 24, 2025, under mail log number 315134.
Staff Exhibit 1 is the direct testimony of Christopher Lowe.
Correct, yes. Thank you, Your Honor. This time I'd like to call Mr. Lowe to the stand.
Yes, sir.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under penalties of perjury that the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name. Spell your first and last name.
My name is Christopher Lowe, CHRISTOPHER, Lowe, LO. And my business address is 6 Singapore Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21202.
Thank you.
Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Lowe.
Good afternoon.
By whom are you employed?
I am the engineer with the Public Service Commission.
Do you have with you Staff Exhibit 1, entitled The Direct Testimony of Christopher Lowe, consisting of 8 pages of testimony and 1 exhibit?
Yes, I do.
Was this document prepared by you, prepared under your supervision?
Yes.
Do you have any additions, deletions, or changes that you would like to make at this time?
No, I do not.
Do you adopt this document as your direct testimony in this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I ask that Staff Exhibit 1 be moved into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
Staff Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you, and the witness is available for cross-examination.
Cross from MCA? Park and Planning?
No cross, Your Honor.
Montgomery County?
No cross, Your Honor.
PPRP?
No, Your Honor.
Chaberton?
No, Your Honor.
I also don't have any cross. I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but I wanted to thank you. I always have to attach PPRP's conditions and staff conditions to my order, and I don't know if you did it on purpose, but it's all in one page.
Oh.
So thank you very much. I love that.
You're welcome.
I don't have to ask for it
You're welcome.
again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your appearance
We'll
this
try
morning.
to match that eventually.
No, just it's separate from testimony. Sometimes theirs is, you have to try to get to it. All right, so I have admitted all of the evidence that was marked by all of the parties. Is there anything else from the parties?
I didn't have that mine was. This is why, can I confirm that Montgomery County Exhibit 1 was admitted? Thank
Montgomery
you, Your Honor.
County's was admitted.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's the feeling on briefs? Are we asking for briefs? Are we not asking for briefs?
Your Honor, I think when we last convened to set a procedural schedule, we proposed a date for 1 round of briefs, I think due May 13th. I can look at my calendar here real quickly and confirm that. Yes, Your Honor. Here I have, at least in my calendar, May 13th for post-hearing briefs.
Yep, May 13th. 1 round of post-hearing briefs. They are optional. If you're not going to submit a brief, just say, this is a letter in lieu of brief. Okay? It's up to you. All right. Anything else from any of the parties?
Your Honor, do you typically find it useful to have briefs?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I do. I don't want to misquote anyone. I don't want to misrepresent what your positions are. Absolutely. Okay. There won't be any response briefs allowed. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming down to Baltimore today. I really appreciate it. We got in like 2 hours and 15 minutes, so it wasn't terrible. And you dealt with our elevator issues and other building issues, so I really, really appreciate it. And we can go off the record. I'm going to stop the feed from home. I have to call down to security to get the elevator to come back up. So give me just a couple of minutes. I'm gonna run back and make that call, and I'll call several times to let them know that there's probably gonna be more than one elevator that needs to come up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.